You're live, but you're not really live. You might be live. Okay, I hope I'm live. Housekeeping. Let me move this real quick. This is called an unboxing video, but of course it's kind of a fake unboxing video because I already tried the Kilts on. Because I had to do that regardless of whether I was making a video, because I've found that not too many people are going to tune in for a second video, I guess. When I first started this channel, I thought I was going to be talking about kilts and tweed all the time, and I've done half a dozen kilt videos or something now. But what I could not fit in the title is I'm not only going to be talking about just one company. I do have some other kilts that we can refer to. So if you haven't seen my budget kilts video, this would basically be cut to the chase. These are budget kilts again. Okay, so I was not really tartan shopping last week. I was just kind of looking at some options online of companies that I've already purchased from. And lo and behold, my old computer didn't do this, but this new one shows me, hey, this is for a better price, and on this website. And so they had the same tartan I was looking at from, semi-trusted previous merchant. I'll get into that in a minute. For only like $44 on Amazon. So I was like, okay, well, let me check what it says. And because I could not believe it would be the same quality item for that much lower price. Again, cut to the chase. It's not. We're going to get into that. So there was an option to pay extra and have these here last week, now being Monday. Obviously, I didn't want to do that, because the whole point of buying the less expensive kilts was to get the lower cost. And with my club points or whatever, I got a discount. So I got 3 kilts for about the price of one of his or theirs. So I thought, well, that's a pretty good deal. And it's Amazon. Now, my basic rule of thumb for anybody watching, again, who hasn't watched the previous the video about the budget kilts and the intermediary kilts, if it's on Amazon, it's probably not worth owning, okay? Especially if you are going to less casual function, like a nicer wedding. Like if you're going to the Scottish Festival or St. Patrick's Day or something, kilts like this are fine. If you're, using them to do chores around the house or walking around the neighborhood to feel kilty, they're great. They're fine. Whatever. You can get well, not all of them are great, but you can get some on Amazon and things that will work. Okay. And some are better than others. So that's exactly what I'm going to get into. Case in point, before we go too deep, like I think I mentioned, this was not from Amazon. I don't remember if you can get them from Amazon or not, but this was Scottish Kilt. And this has a slightly different weave of fabric, but it's an acrylic with a hem, okay? And then this is something else I talk about. There's nicer material that will often come hemmed that's better material than this. This material maybe breathes okay. It's not as super lightweight and flyaway as some of the others. But for summer weather, this does okay. The satin backing gets a little bit sweaty. But you can throw it in the wash, right? Okay, so this is a slightly different, and it's very lightweight. This is probably 11 or 12 ounces at the most. Somewhere in there. It's not super flyaway. Again, like those 9 or 8 ounce ones that shouldn't even be allowed to be sold ever as men's garments. Children's garments maybe, but in a wind. Anyway, so this is the standard, but this has much nicer strap than a lot of the other budget ones. And I got this 2 Christmases ago. Yeah, I think 2 Christmases ago. to just use for summer for, again, kind of stuff. And they didn't have a ton of tartans that I really liked, but this one was okay. And you can see the dye isn't too overwhelmingly bright compared to a real wool. The green's a little bright. The red's a little bright, but it's not like super funky. It's not as breathable as some. Okay, but this, and it fits. It fits me well. Okay. The sizing is correct. Okay. That's key. Whereas this one, that's going to come up again in a minute, you can barely, the dye is very dark. The squares are very small. The fabric weight is about the same. The weave is slightly different, but it is a nice soft feeling fabric. But this one I got 7 years ago or so on Amazon, and I think, or maybe it was eBay, one of the two. And the straps are lower quality. The straps are not very good. I've shown this one before. But overall, it still fits, which is one of the few of the ones that I have from that time period that I can still wear. So I've almost sold this at a yard sale a couple times, and kind of glad I didn't, because I'll still use this. But again, only for ultra casual use, nothing semi-formal. You know, you're not wearing this to a wedding, you're not wearing this to a funeral. You could wear this to, again, a festival if you're not too worried about it blowing around. If it's not super windy, you're fine. But like I said, so when I had first got this, I knew this was not a real kilt, so I had bought, and I don't know what brand this is. There's like no tag on this one at all, which is why it might have come from eBay instead of Amazon. So that was when around then I had discovered UT kilts, which is what I'm mostly comparing these to now. Okay, because again, I know it's not the same thing as this. I know it's similar to that, but I was expecting it to be more similar to the UT kilts. Okay. And so I know I'm showing everybody else's kilt besides the kilts that we'll get there. It's gonna be a minute. If I'm gonna finally talk about kilts, we're gonna go into it. Okay. So the difference with this, okay, oh sorry, let me backtrack slightly. So again, we have a hem. I don't know how well you can see this. We have a hemmed edge here, so the fabric doesn't fray up. And you can throw this again in the wash. This is basically polyester, right? Now this UT kilts, no hem. Okay, we have this kind of, I don't know how they've done kind of a fused selvage or something, so that you don't have any fraying, but you still can throw this in the washing machine. Instead of the satin, we have this nice cloth. His straps used to be better quality. He's gone to these flimsier ones, but they're still not as flimsy as the last ones. This, I had the extra strap added. This is the model that only comes with 2 hip straps. It doesn't come with a third unless you pay the extra. I just wanted the extra. But why I'm saying this is because originally when I found UT kilts, when I bought the 2 or 3 that don't fit me anymore, that I sold all of those now, I got the original, the premium ones, he calls it, that come with the 2 straps. And the problem is they are too bulky around the waistband. They have way more fabric than you want or need for casual use. I wear this kilt to places like Bakersfield when it's 90 degrees and it's a little bit sweaty, but not terrible. The fabric doesn't really breathe, but again, it doesn't have the sweaty satin. You know, you're not getting premier features, like the top band doesn't match up, like, you know, ever. The front apron, the whatever element, as Robert McDonald calls it, that you might want in the center will almost never be in the center. Usually the elements are off center just enough to drive you insane, stuff like that, you know. But overall, like, you know, it holds up. I've worn this one more than 3 times or half a dozen times or something, and I've washed it. And they don't pill up too badly compared to Like this one is pilled like crazy. If you can see it really close up, and that's on the inside. You can see where that's just from the washing machine, and where the Sporin chain rubs. This one's not as bad as some of those other acrylic ones. Like I said, those ones that shouldn't be allowed to be sold at all. You'll just have a pile of lint on the front of your kilt at the end of the day if you walk around all day in one of those things. These ones typically can withstand that abrasion a lot more. Like I said, this brand and that Scottish Kilt brand both do pretty well with that kind of abrasion. This, though, the fabric is thicker. It's a similar feel to the one that I put on the floor, but definitely more heft to it. Again, no hem to mess up your back pleats. So the pleats will stay a little bit more true than if you have a hem. That kind of thing. Okay, so this is what I was measuring these against literally when I ordered them, because like I said, I know this is like 110 bucks or whatever before you add the second strap. And another downfall of his new ones, they're after being washed a few times, I'll have to take this to a tailor and have her stitch around the edge, because I don't think I could hand stitch through that very easily. You could probably just glue it back down, but this is not a kilt that I plan to just use a couple more times and toss out, so it might be worth it to invest for me to get that stitched up before next year or whatever. Obviously, I have plenty more that I can wear in the meantime, so it's not a huge priority. But anyway, but one of the other big problems, besides the bulky waistband, which again, I bought the less expensive premium, not the premium model, the standard model, because that other waistband was just almost undoable. If you're going to get the kilt rebuilt, though, to be more of your size, or redo the pleats or the front apron or something to match your, I would say get the bigger, bulkier one with the extra fabric. That way you have, your tailor or yourself, if you're a sewing enthusiast project person, you'll have enough fabric to work with after you pick the stitches. Whereas this, I doubt that you would have enough fabric to bother to get the garment you want. So I bought two from him that I liked, the tartans, that I might do that with someday, and I might not. We'll see. But one of the main issues, obviously, with any kilt is trying to get like accessories that match. If you're the type where, like, obviously this is the ancient tartan, doesn't match at all. Whereas the modern tartan, the blue is different than the other blue. They don't quite match. Let me try and find. I mean, this is supposed to be the same tartan, but you can see how small that navy square is compared to this navy square that's almost more purpley from Ingles Bucking or whatever. So the green is almost the same. The light blue is totally different. More of an electric blue here. And this purple that's navy here, you can't even see the navy square here. It's so hidden in the green, almost as bad as this acrylic one I was just showing, right? So it's really difficult to get things that matchy match. But even then, I got this hat also from Ingles Bucking that doesn't even match their tie, right? The blue being more of a true navy now, the tie being a little bit older. The hat finally came after months and months and months of supply chain woes. So this hat, this tie, and this kilt, I have three things that really don't quite match. I guess the hat almost matches the kilt, except it still has this bright blue instead of that electric blue. So the hat and the tartan tie almost match, but the purple instead of the navy. So this will drive you insane, like I talked about in the accessories video. So part of the reason I was shopping for kilts, even though I wasn't like actually shopping for kilts, is just because I had these accessories left over from when I had the old UT kilts that like I said, I got rid of because they didn't fit me. So I thought, well, dang, So I wanted to get, actually, I just got this hat too, another one that took forever to get here, but I had the tie for years. So I wanted to get kilts that kind of matched. As you can see, it almost matches here, but the green is so dark that it's almost a complete wash. And the pattern, again, being very small in terms of set size. If you don't understand set size and all that, it's all in those other videos. But basically, you have two things that work for you or against you that they can manipulate at the mill. One is the thickness of the thread. So a lighter weight material will have a thinner thread. So you can choose to increase the amount of stitches. So I could, if I wanted the square to be bigger, I could like double the amount of the stitches for everything, and it would change how much of each color I might need to use, because I might end up needing, you know, well, you'll still end up needing maybe more of one color than another one, because the blue being doubled, you think, well, yeah, it's double the green, but then how many squares you can fit will change. So you might end up actually needing less blue slightly, see what I'm saying? Even though there's more blue in a square. However that works. So they do some kind of math, I assume, to figure out how much thread they want to use for each color before they weave the thing, to figure out how much it's going to cost to weave the thing. But the other thing is, so when the thread is thicker, you automatically would get bigger elements, but then, like I said, you can manipulate that, because again, here they've got this blue square so small you can barely even see it, even though this wool is thicker than this acrylic, right? So how they come to determine that, I don't know, but almost all of these acrylic and wool blend kilts, they call 16-ounce wool, that aren't 16-ounce wool. They're probably 20% wool if you're lucky. For some reason, the set sizes are always just too small, and yet the white stripe is like way too white, right? So I don't know how they determine that, but it almost never looks like the set size of the piece from an actual mill. Like this is from Wherein, but their ties, I don't know if they make them from scraps or have a different weave loom or something for different items, or if they just manipulate the patterns for different articles or whatever. But this, I don't think, feels the same as their tartan wool would feel, and the set size could be different than whichever weight of fabric this would be more closely to match. Some tartans they offer in 13-ounce, and some tartans they only offer in 16-ounce. And so you got to kind of navigate that. Again, I live in California, so overall 13-ounce is typically better for me to wear, even though I like the look and feel of the 16-ounce kind of better. So I don't have very many 16-ounce weight kilts. So again, these claim to be 16-ounce. So when the box came, and I can't quite lift it with one hand, but almost, I was like, oh, they must have only sent one kilt, because I was expecting this to be, again, a bulky waistband version of this, and instead there's 3 kilts in here. Sorry. Activated the shredder. That's my stand-in for a workbench for now. Okay. So what other features are you typically looking for? Well, the fringe edge, which some people don't like the look of, but it's there to mimic old cloth, and sometimes you lose a thread. It's not that big of a deal. Again, this has been machine washed, and it's only lost a few threads, so we're not doing too bad. You do have kind of a placket. You probably can't see that seam at all. That's folded over along here. And so it's typically cut not too much of an angle for an A-line. You typically have one deeper pleat that's kind of a reverse pleat. You have buttonholes that are you have one buttonhole for your buckle on your inner strap, and then your other two buckles are on the exterior for, again, you can have one or two buckles depending on who made your kilt or if you requested extra or whatever. And standard kind of pleats for a casual kilt, usually somewhere in the 20 range. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. So yeah, we got a 22. That's decent. Not, again, we're talking a completely casual kilt. It's pleated more to the set than to the stripe, so that can affect how many pleats you can get. Typically, I think an odd number of pleats is considered more favorable by more experienced kilt makers, so it should be 23, not 22, but again, I've worn it, it's fine. Also, the size of the belt loops, or what people call the belt loops, although technically it's a sporran chain holder thing. So here you can see I can get about a hand's width in here. That can vary. You don't necessarily need a full hand width if you're only putting a sporran through there, sporran chain through there, but if you're putting a belt through there, then kilt belts are wider than regular jeans belts. And so you want that wider. And so we'll get to that in a minute. Okay, so without further ado, 20 minutes in, we are finally unboxing the Kilt Emporium kilts. And we are going to do, I'm going to move this over. We're going to do the black watch first, because this is the one I needed the least. But this was the one that was said it was in stock, so they keep this pattern around. Most companies will have black watch in stock most of the time in most sizes. You can see where it says 44. That's what I ordered. And I can tell you, again, without much ado, that basically this kilt is entirely false advertising. There's no way this is 44. I can barely fit it on. The big reveal, I'll show you. Is it? Where's this tag? Why is it working against me? There we go. This camera used to be cooperative when I first was doing videos, and for some reason now everything is backwards. You can see it's got flimsy satin lining, not even nice quality satin. It has gouges and gashes in it. Loose threads, like aplenty everywhere that I have to pick and pull. I mean, like I said, I took this out of the bag already, but I did not mess with it. The pleats, one of these back pleats has gotten all wonky from storage or shipping or something. I don't know if I'll be able to iron that out. The fabric is basically the same as the UT Kilts fabric, but it feels lighter weight. But we do have this fused selvage, no hem. 16 pleats though, like I said, and the fit. The belt loops on this one are plenty big, but there's one of the other ones it's not. I got 3 buckles. The tartan is not as dark in color as the other one. So you can see, well, with this lighting, this actually looks brighter green, kind of. But in real life, you can see that what's going on a little easier with the new one than with the old one. But I don't know how well you can see this. Like I said, that's not my size. That is, where's the buttonhole? The buttonhole is here, and the strap is here. I can pull it through, but I have to yank it, and then I can go maybe to the third notch. And then when I go to the third notch, I can yank it and pull it tight and get maybe to the second notch without it looking terrible, too terrible. And then you can see, well, you can't see if I back that a little bit. You can see where the apron is almost wide enough, but not perfect. But the back is not terrible. It's not. I did get another one from that Scottish kilt company where somehow they had done the aprons all the same size, or the pleating all the same size, and just adjusted at the aprons. And so that one really didn't have enough pleating back here to be comfortable. But the aprons were still, but it still fit better than this one. I wasn't yanking and pulling to try and get it. But overall, I mean, I can wear this if I want to. But definitely not the right size. Definitely not a 44. It's they're really pushing the definition of the sizing there. And the amount of pleats is a joke. The weight of the fabric, like I said, it's the same fabric, but it's a smidge lighter maybe, and I don't know if that's just they've gone to this. You know, if I ordered from UT Kilts, would I end up with the same fabric as this? Maybe. Would I end up with the same pleats as this? I hope not. Would I end up with the same satin as this? I don't know if he's cut that many corners yet. But again, this kilt by itself was half the price of this kilt. So again, if I'm only using it for walking around the neighborhood doing chores, or going to a casual festival, I guess for $44 or whatever it was, this is fine. But I'm still disappointed that the quality. It's like I said, it's definitely not 16-ounce wool as advertised. So false advertising there. It's definitely the wrong size as advertised. So, where tradition meets style. Warning to avoid dangerous suffocation. Right? Okay. Who cares? Okay. So men's are, I don't know what that's supposed to be. Regular black watch, new, and that's all it really says on the tag. I guess I could have used this for the thumbnail, the bag. Basically, I think what they did was they invested in these bags and then put the Pakistan kilts in the bags. So I got some nice little bags that I don't really need, I guess. So number 2, and this one, I don't think any of them were sealed up. Maybe the one was sealed up. I think they were all open. I think they just stuffed them in the bags and threw them in the box, but same bag. Was I going to, I guess I wasn't going to compare them too much. I have my notes. Okay, so what I wrote on here was similar fabric but lighter weight, 16 pleats, even number, again, the other one being 22 pleats. Munched middle, too tight, satin lining, which is basically crap. Flimsy straps. Did I show the straps? Maybe. I don't remember. Well, I'll show them again in a minute. Black watch weathered. Now we have 19 pleats, better fit. And so now we have, instead of just garbage, we have garbage I can wear. Sigh. Okay, so what's the big difference here? The reason I used the Outlander thumbnail is because of the next tartan. The black watch weathered. The weathered tartan thing was around before the Outlander show. I forget if it was Loch Heron who did it first. But basically here what we're doing is we're taking that blue and making it into this sort of gray. And we're taking the green and making it into this sort of yellowish brown. Not all the weathered, again, Again, a lot of times, again, they will manipulate the squares for the set size because a real black watch kilt, wool kilt, the squares would be much larger than what you're seeing here, and cons typically, and so the squares should be the same size here, but here you can see the squares are even smaller than that acrylic one, even though the fabric is slightly heavier. Again, this might be 11 or 12 ounces, and this might be 13 ounces. They're calling this 16 ounces. I'm pretty sure there's no way this is 16 ounces. I'll have to get that in a minute. I had previously, again, bought accessories to go with the UT Kilts one. Now, these both came from Wherein, and they actually matched the color of that kilt very well, which is part of the reason why I was looking at it on the website again, because I knew that for only 110 bucks or whatever, I could get a kilt that matches this pretty close. And so I might, get one soon, eventually. But then, like I said, when I saw this for 44 bucks, I decided, well, we'll see if it's close enough. And we're not entirely thrilled with it, but it's pretty close. The fabric is a little rough and coarse. Like I said, it might be lighter weight than the UT Kilt fabric. But this dye in this fabric, again, could just be a result of the years having gone by, because the kilt I had before, it didn't have no snags or anything. It certainly, was a coarse material. It certainly was the same, fused selvage, blah, blah, blah. It just didn't feel as lightweight as this I'm positive. A lot of times there will be a hidden seam in the pleats somewhere where they've fused two bits of fabric together. I haven't gone through every single one of my kilts to see how many of them have that. But I'll cut around here so I can show how much closer this is to the correct fit. The strap is not totally being yanked to get to the buttonhole this time. You can see I'm not struggling and straining to put this on, and I'm able to get it to that hole. Same flimsy crap. I might replace the straps with a reputable kilt company. Here we have a bit more. It's just basically like an inch, right? But you can see I'm not like trying very hard to have to put this on. Belt loops, not the same hand width. Pleats. You can't really see the pleats, but acceptable enough for, again, a really casual, pretty lightweight kilt. So there's kilt number 2. Now, there is, however, the issue of the one that is more blue and more brown that doesn't quite match. There is a mill or two that does more in this color, and I'm not sure. You can see that this one looks a lot more green compared to that. Brown, if I can get it to focus. I can't tell, but this looks very blue, and this looks greenish gray more. So one of these days I want to maybe get a kilt that matches this hat, because this hat is made to be more worn with kilts, whereas this I could wear just casually with the flat cap. Why can't I get anything to cooperate? The flat cap, I can just wear this with a regular suit and go on about my day. But like I said, since I figured this kilt would be pretty close, and you can see where there's leeway here, I can even tighten that. And so that's kind of abrupt, but so yeah, that's what I was kind of thinking of getting, was actually a kilt to match this, and instead I got this one for 50 bucks, right? Which leads us to kilt number 3. Kilt number 3. Now, again, reason for the Outlander. Oh, I didn't read the last bag. I'm sorry. weathered Black Watch 44 new. Nothing too exciting. New men's 44 Fraser weathered. Okay, now the Fraser weathered. Before I get into that, what I was gonna say is in the Outlander show they didn't actually use weathered Black Watch. They used weathered Mackay or McKay, however the preferred pronunciation. For whatever reason, they thought that would be just a good generic tartan that didn't have any British military ties, as far as I know. But essentially the same colors as this. And then the Mackenzie clan had a separate tartan that is based on the current Mackenzie military tartan, which is kind of funny because the British government like invented that tartan from the Black Watch tartan, as far as from what I've learned. So that tartan didn't even exist back then. And if the Mackenzies had their own family tartan, most people believe that it was probably more of a red-based tartan, like the Stewart or the one of the Fraser tartans. The Fraser tartan in the program that they show, I think they showed Jamie wearing it during the wedding sequence. Similar to the Mackenzie one in that it has like a red stripe in it and a white stripe, which again would not have existed in the early 1700s, likely because again the Mackenzie tartan was basically invented by the British. So this tartan would be completely not the old Fraser tartan or any actual Fraser tartan. This one, I listed it on the thumbnail as being the hunting tartan because it is similar to the hunting tartan, kind of loosely, but they've left out some of the colors when they've gone to, and then they've done the set size smaller. So if there was color variety in here, it's completely lost now. And so you're getting much more of a blocky square effect than the actual, but basically the same colors, this kind of muted blue and brownish green instead of green and blue, or gray instead of navy. And then the red is a pretty faithful red. Again, not super bright like some of the acrylic reds you might see. No, I didn't show the tag on the previous. I'm having the worst time trying to get these things to square up. There we go. But yeah, 44, same size, same messed up junk here. You can see where the buckle or something has almost put holes in it already. Just the worst fabric ever for these linings. We got loose threads. I didn't really show the whole inside of the other thing. You've got just a serious mess here. I didn't notice if it was like this with the other kilt. I guess I'll bring it back up for a minute. Make this video last an hour with that. No, this one's not bad. This one has a little bit of black squiggle going on here and there. You can see. You can pull. But you can trim that with scissors. It's not the end of the world. Most of that'll pick right off. Here though, this is what I was talking about earlier. I knew I can barely get the fourth finger in there. It's pushing it. I don't know how it'll be with a belt, but I might never wear it with a belt because a lot of times I wear a vest or something. Again, these loose threads, I don't really sweat that too much. But if you look at what's going on under here, you've got a total ragged edge. Just absolute, like, bottom of the barrel, how quick can we churn these out kind of things. Which, again, if I'm just wearing this to a day festival, it's not going to matter that much. And I don't know if you can sew with these because, yeah, these threads are not especially tough. Could I break wool threads in a 16 ounce like that? I don't know. I haven't tried. 13 ounce maybe, but I imagine I would also get pretty bad paper cuts Whereas this, I can literally just shred this. This is not even laundered. This is pre-laundry, just low quality, overall. But this one, what did I write? 18 pleats, smaller loops. Still, so again, an even number of pleats, but not terrible. You can see where it's all kind of munched at the bottom there from storage or transport again, but not a hem, so not too big of an issue. The inside kind of all rumply and bumped where it was folded over itself. This pleat in the middle, though, is just absolutely ghastly. I've never had kilts show up that really the pleats looked all like this. for lack of a better word, is what we're going with. But yeah, again, the fit here, like I said, I tried them on already, so I already know that the fit here is not terrible. It's got, the extra 2 pleats. The buttonhole is in about the right place. The strap is not giving me an issue to put the thing on. The straps are definitely cheap and already curling up on this side. If I can find the next hole. So yeah, again, the top band here, though, absolute like mess where the white, this is the front of your apron, and they couldn't even bother to put the this by this or this this by this. Like it's almost as drunk as I look trying to do this. And you can see here where, again, let me straighten my shirt. So what element would I want in the front? Maybe this void kind of thing. Maybe the red cross. Maybe that would be the most logical. But now my buckles are not in the right place. So when I try to center it up, it's off center. Because it's almost on center of this, but just off enough that it'll drive you insane. I mean, my shirt is not completely straight still, but if I'm trying to center it up with the apron correct, it's almost to the white stripe, but not quite. And the shirt is doing that, not the shirt is in the wrong place for the camera, is just what's throwing it off. So the white is not quite where it should be, and the blue is not quite where it should be. So we have the center line basically on this void, which is terrible, just completely terrible. So what most of us will do is overcompensate, and I'd probably just put the white stripe as close to the center as I could without the aprons looking too far cockeyed. We've got, what, 2 layers of fringe. I didn't really look at the fringe and everything on all of these. I don't know if there's any reason to really show all the details of all 3 kilts, because yeah, they're just. I'm sure if I went back and looked at the Black Watch weathered one, I would see very quickly if it's centered near anything. I don't need to really buckle the under one for this. I guess it's kind of centered on this if I'm looking down. See, when I'm looking down, I can see what I can't see in the camera because the camera screws everything up. But here, I've got the other kilt underneath it, so it's kind of throwing off my perception slightly and adding an extra bulk of bulge to the front that, again, would, on those other kilts, all that bulk was mostly in the back, still only the same amount of bulk in the front. So your back just got much more sweaty wearing it for, several hours than you will even with this other fabric. But this fabric still, again, not going to be especially breathable or anything. So that's what we have to work with. Of course, I don't have any accessories that match this Fraser one because it was kind of an impulse buy because I think it said there was only 2 left or whatever. So I said, okay, let me grab one. But as a bonus treat, see, I have the Fraser. This is not the weathered. This is the ancient 13 ounce from House of Edgar. And so in the ancient, you've got an orange stripe instead of the red one or the maroon one that you can get maybe in some of the other colorways, palettes. And so here we have a much more of a dark brown, but there's a lot more squares going on that are integral to the idea than, again, this kind of blocky, simple pattern. Let me hold them up next to each other. Pause for the cost. But again, the pattern that they invented for the program, this pattern, which like I said, is loosely based on this pattern or the Mackenzie pattern. I'm not really sure if they did a hybrid thing or if they just simplified this design for weaving based on this. But you can see this is not a true Fraser tartan at all of any pattern that I've looked at. I think, like I said, the closest it comes to is this one. So there's that. So what it has to do with the program, because the program doesn't have any real historical tartans in it to begin with. But it looks okay. I mean, like I said, it's a little bit slightly different than the Mackenzie one, I think. Unless this is the Mackenzie one and they've mislabeled it Fraser. Entirely possible. I don't have any Mackenzie here with me right now that I could hold up next to it. So I don't remember. Do I have a picture of Mackenzie? Armstrong. No, that was the one I showed first. Chisholm, which is similar to the Fraser Hunting. McKinley, Mackay. No, I don't have Mackenzie right here. So yeah, I'm not sure because I know they came out with a Mackenzie tartan for the show too, like I said, and that might be this, but I don't know. Somebody who made it this far, who's astute, will tell me in the comments. Or later on, I'll do a tartan compare. I have a pretty good eye for tartans, but I haven't memorized every single one. And this one being a budget Amazon tartan, whatever. It might be Mackenzie. Don't know. So I guess I can wrap it up there. If I forgot anything, you can always add your questions in the comments, which is the whole point of doing these videos, I guess. And signing off.